This is a shot of the Shouts behind the town hall in Birmingham, and it's cutting out of one of the Birmingham papers stating that we were the Birmingham group chosen to back Gene Vincent. And the one below is all of us together in one of the dress rooms in Birmingham. That's Jim, the sax player, Vincent, you know, Eric, who played the organ, myself with the great hairstyle, Vic, the mad drummer, and that's Tim, who was a great guitarist. Our agent asked us if we would be interested in going for an audition with Gene Vincent. But he said you wouldn't be working for me anymore, you'd have to work for Don Arden, which is well known down in London. So we said yeah, it could be a stepping stone for ourselves to get into the studios, etc, etc. So we went down, we had an audition with the manager down there, and we played a few of our own set, and we got through it okay, and he said yeah, fine, you're on. So we went down for rehearsals with Gene. We were booked up to go down and do some early rehearsals with Gene. He booked an actual cinema for us to go and rehearse so he could hear the sound on a full stage in a full place to actually get an idea what the sound would be like with the Shouts. So we went and we rehearsed for several weeks down London. We stayed down London and we rehearsed with Gene because we were going on some big stage shows with Dwayne Eddy, the Shirelles and people like that, and we needed to be up to par with everything. Yeah, this here was a picture that was taken at a club down south, and a friend of mine who used to play in the band saw it on the actual wall of the club, and he asked the manager if he could have it, and he got it for me. I didn't know at the time that I thought it was the only photograph around of this one, but I found out recently that there is a photographer who's got the negative, so it's not the only photograph of that one. There must be a lot more of those. Yes, I was a big fan of Gene's from when I was 14 years old. Just before I left school, I'd heard some records of his Buddy Holly and most of the mainline people at the time. And I had Gene Vincent, and there was something that I latched onto there. I think it was a sound actually of the Blue Caps, because I loved the sound. And I just got into that music, and everywhere I went to, I used to try and get the records or try and find some information on Gene, and I collected all his original LPs, which I've got to this day. They're not really very good condition, but I've still got them. And also, I've got a lot of information about Gene. And so I was a big fan, so never realised in 1963, which is probably 5 years after I left school, that I would join Gene. You can't explain it really. It was a kind of a dream come true to a certain degree, that I actually played with this man, you know, and actually went down and actually did vocal backings. And I used to listen to the vocal backings of the Blue Caps. I used to love the Blue Caps, were his best group. And his early stuff, there's no doubt about it. If anybody listens to it, and I think everybody would agree, his early stuff with the Blue Caps is the best. You can't beat it. Right, these are some early shots of Gene when we were on tour. Also interesting about some of these shots is you can see a young lady there, Jackie Frisco, who was his girlfriend, and eventually married, and I think he was there till the end actually with Jackie. Gene asked us if Jackie could sing with us, so we did a few numbers with Jackie. She's a very nice girl actually. As you can see, she was quite young. And those are some individual shots on there of the group. No, we were under contract to play with Gene whenever. We could have stayed with Gene for 10 years, you know, that was the way it was. Gene liked us and we got on well with Gene. And he was the one who actually got us into the studios eventually to do the LP. It was him who pushed us into that, you know. Yes, we recorded about 15, 16 songs with Gene. Most of them were on the LP. They released one, which was Private Detective, on a single, which did reasonably well. It didn't go into the top 10 or 20, but it did reasonably well. We did a Granada Spectacular in 1964. I think it was about March, and we did it with Jerry Lee Lewis. Also, the Animals did a small spot there as well. They did a number on there, and that was called Shout, believe it or not. I don't know if they did it for us, but I don't think they did. Now, some of these are shots that were taken by a photographer who came along to the Civic Hall at Wolverhampton. And we knew they were going to be shot. And they're quite clear shots, actually. They're good shots of us actually working on stage with Gene. And there's a few cuttings out of the paper there. One excellent one is where we played at the Audition, Hammersmith, London, with Chuck Berry, Carl Perkins. Gene was the star of the show that night then. When we first went over France, we didn't know what to expect. And when we got over there, it was phenomenal. It was like being the Beatles over there, because Gene had 5 records in the top 10, and it was pretty wonderful. You felt like a star over there, and everywhere you went, you were mobbed. We played a place and all you could hear was a noise. You couldn't hear yourself think or play or whatever, and it was out of this world. I can understand why John Lennon said at one time that really it wasn't happening and he didn't enjoy it, because that's all it was. And I suppose, okay, if they can't hear the music, you kind of think that in the end. But it's a nice for your ego. So yeah, over in Europe, it was a different situation to being in England, and it was like being the Beatles over there, and it was pretty good. I really enjoyed that tour, and we got a lot of publicity from it, and we came back and were ecstatic about it. But coming back to England is different. It was a different deal because the groups were coming on then, and you had to play at ballrooms and stuff like that, which really, it was not quite the same as coming from France, because Gene wasn't held then in England as much as he was in France at that level. That one on the left, the top shot there, is one from the Granada show that we did with Gene. As you can see, there's motorbikes on the stand behind that, or mods and rockers coming to actually sit on the bikes and whatever. That was a good show. Also, you can see that we actually did a summer season at the North Pier at Pavilion at Blackpool. Gene played at one town one day and then played the next town another day. But this time we were playing pretty well every Sunday at the Blackpool, which was good. I liked the experience, and it was nice, a different type of audience there as well. But Gene loved it. Don Arden was, as you know, he was classified as a little gangster, and he was small, and he had his stool, and he had an office. Gene, as far as I know, had a kind of up and down relationship with Don, because Don did not pay salaries or checks out when he was supposed to, so everybody had to go down to the office and wait and sit on his 5-inch carpet to see Don, to say, do you mind paying me sometime? And some of the people there were the Animals Nashville teens who were for Don Arden, and ourselves. So we'd always be in the office sitting there on this carpet waiting to see Don, which he kept us waiting quite a long time to get paid. Gene's relationship was pretty well the same, but he didn't sit on the carpet. I think he got his manager to go down there and try and get a check out of Don sometimes. So he didn't see Don that often, but I think it was a bit fiery between them. That's the way it was. I mean, I know Gene had a reputation, and I was a bit aware of this when we joined him, because there was a lot of information in the papers about Gene and guns and God knows what. He'd quietened down a little bit, I think, and of course Jackie Frisco came on to the scene there, and I think she was a very calming factor to him.
And why did the Shouts stop playing with Gene?
They wanted to go out on their own, because we realised at the time, as you can imagine, there was the Beatles, the Searchers, and all the big groups, the Stones. And the Shouts, it was really Gene Vincent and the Shouts. And it would always be like that, unless we left Gene. And we wanted to produce our own stuff and write our own stuff and produce it. So we decided to go out on our own, and Don Arden allowed us to go down to studios and record. And we did release a number called She Was My Baby, which was an old Jerry Lee Lewis number on React Records. We were a stable group with Gene. We stayed with Gene for quite a long time, and I really truly believe that that time he was happy because he had a stable group. He didn't have to keep rehearsing with a group after 6 months or something like that, and a new group come along. He got a stable group, and he pushed us. He got us into the studios, he got us on the TV shows, he got us on the European tour. We did all this with Gene. He got a good, stable time over them 2 years, and I think that's what Gene wanted. He kind of relived, I think, his days with the Blue Caps, although you couldn't compare us with the Blue Caps. I mean, the Blue Caps were, above that. This one here, but you probably won't be able to see the writing, is very faint. It says, "It was nice working with you." And that was Gene who signed it for me just before we left to go on our home.